am Elizabeth. Today I will be refuting against Morgan Clark. My opponent's claim was that GMOs are bad for society. Her first secondary claim was that GMOs harm the environment, and her second secondary claim is that GMOs negatively affect our bodies. So in refutation to her first secondary claim, GMOs harm the environment, GMOs provide a more sustainable agricultural environment. GMOs do not pollute the air, water, and soil as she claimed. In fact, Professor Wayne Parrott in crop science from the University of Georgia states that GMO crops reduce the need for plowing, which reduces soil erosion by 70%, wind erosion, and dust emission, therefore reducing air pollution, water pollution, and harm to the soil. He also states that GMO crops reduce fuel use by 1,700 gallons per acre because it reduces the need for plowing. It also increases water and soil quality. Also, in refutation to something that she stated farmers in the Midwest are now battling against superbugs and superplants from them being resistant to pesticides due to GMOs. But GMOcompass.com states that there are pest-resistant crops that have soil bacteria that produce a protein that is toxic to herbivorous insects, which would reduce the need for pesticides that would intoxicate the soil, the crop, the water, or which may create these pesticide-resistant superbugs or superplants. Okay, in refutation to her second secondary claim, GMOs harm our bodies. GMOs are actually safe for human consumption. An article by USA Today states that there is no long-term pattern of increase in specific health problems after the introduction of GE foods. The same article states that genetically engineered crops are safe for human and animals to eat and have not caused increases in cancer, obesity, gastrointestinal illnesses, kidney disease, autism, or allergies, an exhaustive report from the National Academies of Science found. In the same article, with the same report, it states that overall, the report concluded that there were no differences in terms of a higher risk to human health between the foods made from GE crops and those made from conventionally bred crops. Some more refutations to what she stated. She stated that food allergies have skyrocketed, but she does not cite the source for this claim. Also, some bias problems that she may have for her sources. She stated that GMOs have herbicides that affect the human digestive system. The American Academy of Environmental Medicine cites animal studies showing organ damage, gastrointestinal and immune system disorders, accelerated aging, and infertility. The source for this information is Jeffrey Smith and his website, the Institute of Responsible Technology, based off on one of his books. This is most likely biased because his website and his book are against GMOs. So this may be biased against GMOs because it's an anti-GMO website. Also, for another bias, she states, both pesticides and GMOs have been connected with an increased risk of certain types of cancer. GMO crops and their companion pesticides and herbicides wreak havoc on the environment, including polluting air, water, and soil. Her source for this information is Andrea Donsky and her website, naturallysubby.com, which are actually advocates for organic living, which therefore may be biased against GMOs. Also, I have already refuted that it does not pollute the air, water, and the soil. So in conclusion, she states that GMOs are bad for society because they cause harm to the environment and they negatively affect our bodies. But in fact, GMOs do not cause harm to the environment. In fact, they are more sustainable for the agricultural environment, and they are safe for human consumption.
Thank you. All right, Elizabeth, you did a good job listing the proposition and the secondary points. You started off with a clear set of counterclaims on the first point and the benefits of sustainability because of GMOs, and I think that that addresses the argument in a very general way, suggesting that there are these environmental benefits. It's not always particular to the information that the advocate presents, but I think it does seem like it has an overall response on that issue. You don't really talk about the advocate's evidence at this particular point. There was an argument about superbugs and weeds, and then you presented a piece of evidence on that particular point. But as far as I could tell, the piece of evidence sounded like it was confirming what the advocate said. So that was a little bit confusing. How we were supposed to interpret that was not very clear. On the dangers to the body itself, I thought that your evidence here was much more clearly labeled. And one of the things I think you might want to do is contrast the sources that you're citing to the sources the advocate cites. I think you do a little bit of challenging on some of the advocate's evidence, but let's face it, you're quoting the National Academy of Sciences, and they're quoting a couple of web pages by people who are interested in organic foods. When it comes to evaluating the scientific evidence on the safety of the foods, I think you've got a very credible source that you could get a lot of mileage out of if you emphasize that a little bit more. The criticism that you had of the evidence concerning the impact of herbicides on the digestive system, your argument is that they're biased because they have a point of view, that because it's an anti-GMO site or because they're an organic food group. I'm not exactly sure that that meets the criteria of bias there. Certainly they're going to have a different point of view, but the same would be true of people who are advocates of these kinds of things. So that's not, I think, the kind of thing that is automatically biasing. The suggestion that they might benefit from this, or that they are blinded by a zeal that maybe doesn't allow them to evaluate evidence very clearly. I think something like that might fit in that category. And again, I think this is one of those places where you say, well, what data do they present on this kind of information? And Smith doesn't do anything except make a conclusionary statement, but my sources cite research that they've done, and they present this kind of research. He just sees a correlation between food allergies. And by the way, there wasn't any evidence that said that there was an increase in food allergies, so this is all a presupposition in the first place. And then the same thing, I think, with the other site. I think you're kind of missing the point on the issue of bias on that. But like I said, I think you have good counterclaims on the issues that you're presenting. It's very nicely organized. It's easy to follow and listen to. You do a very good job speaking to the audience, and at the end you have an effective summary. So it kind of reminds us, boom, here's the position that we're taking, and that's why it's the correct one. All right, thank you.